got ourselves a series. Kyle Brickman, welcome to the show. I'm your host, Adon Moss. We, despite a Freddie Van Vliet hip injury, a Scotty retweak of the ankle, what else happened that was destined us to get swept? Despite all of it, we pulled out. Oh, I know. We shot an abysmal 20% from three. Despite all of that, we deadened the Philadelphia 76er offense and pulled it within another game of sending this to a game 7.
Yeah, I'm ecstatic. I'm thrilled. I think there is actually a lot they can take away from this game going forward too. I don't think this is a one-off. Like, it'd be one thing if it was like, oh, the Raptors shot 80% from three and they snuck out a win. They're going to go lose in Philly. I actually think there's something to be found here.
Yeah, I mean, we always knew that we hoped that the shooting variation would kind of fall back to the ground. And in the last two games, that's kind of been the case, particularly tonight. Danny Green missed a ton of corner threes. Tyrese Maxey was 4 for 12. Harden was 5 for 17. Sometimes there's a lot to be said for our defensive adjustments, and we can talk about that. But sometimes, once a team just stops hitting, the tangibles of a defensive scheme really kind of come to light, and that happened tonight when those shots aren't falling. Well, who we got here?
Yeah, I was gonna say, should we bring him in? I didn't even know he was coming in. He's rubbing his hands.
Sahal, my man, welcome to the podcast, videocast, whatever.
Appreciate you. Doc Rivers is down 3-1 again, so I'm excited. Let's get this show on the road.
That's what I actually wanted to say that earlier. It's like, if there's ever a coach that's going to blow a 3-0 lead, he's got to be the betting favorite, right? Like, if you had to bet on any coach in the NBA to blow a 3-0 series lead, it's got to be Doc.
So he's done it 3 times. Yeah,
I've done 3-1.
I was going to say Orlando Magic 2003, 2015 Clippers with that. Was that the one against the Houston Rockets where James Harden goes to the bench and puts a towel over his head, and Josh Smith and Corey Brewer save the day? And then 2020 Los Angeles Clippers
in the bubble
as well, and that was the Denver Nuggets, I believe, the Jokic series. So he's done it before. I don't like playing into those kind of narratives because it's all really kind of random, really. If you think about it, like, you can't say, like, there's so much that goes into these series. You can't say that, like, he's just had, he has that much of an impact on the losing. But either way, I do think that there's a narrative here, a larger one at play, where the Toronto Raptors have the grit and the edge to push this game to the limits. And I think Billy has the psychological fallibilities to let this one kind of get murky and troubling for them.
Yeah, guys, I was watching the game, and this is, I think, the only game that I've fully watched, because I know game one I fully watched. So this game I was watching fully through, and I'll tell you one thing. I've never been so happy and glad to see Joel Embiid get his fair share of non-calls in the paint. The last one where he fell to the floor, where Precious contested him from behind. At the time, I was thinking, okay, you got to give Joel that foul. When they showed the replay, I realized there was absolutely no contact, and Joel just crumbled and collapsed to the ground, and then managed to give I forgot which referee it was. It was the head referee. Managed to give him a nice talking to on his way back down the court, and he didn't get teched up for it, which was kind of shocking because, like, I saw a couple expletives in that. To
Embiid's credit, he does a lot of talking to the officials, but it's usually they seem to be like chit-chatting. He's kind of like always bugging them. He never it seems like he very rarely yells in an official's face. Like, you see Draymond Green will like yell and like spit in a referee's face. Like, it'll be like right up in his like basically like, nose to nose. Draymond gets away with crazy stuff. I think
I'll split the difference here because I think the refs called some really quick trigger techs on us, namely the Freddie one. And then Embiid, and then I have seen clips where Embiid's like talking. He's like, oh, okay. And I dig that. But then he has other ones where he's incessantly yelling and whining and they don't give him anything. So I think it's kind of both. Today it was 26-20 in fouls for the Philly had 26 fouls and Toronto had 20. In the other games, it was 24-18. Toronto had more fouls, and just trying to pull up the other one. 26-18 as well. So this is the first game where we've not, and I don't have the third game on me, but this is the first game I believe where we've not let in fouls in the game, and you can see the impact it has defensively.
Yeah, this is also the first game where we let in free throw attempts, which is nice to see. 35 free throw attempts to Philadelphia, and Philadelphia still shot 25, so it's not like they weren't getting to the line. Philadelphia fans, yeah, I mean they obviously still have the upper hand. I was kind of fighting off some people in my Twitter mentions today that were mentioning how Raptors fans are not allowed to boo Joel Embiid at their home court, which is absolutely insane. I didn't really understand it, and a lot of people were alluding to the fact that they were booing him because he was injured, which I didn't understand either. I mean, probably half the fans in the stadium didn't even know Joel Embiid has a right thumb injury, so I don't know where that was heading. But I mean, it's just, I guess, just desperate lunges from Philly fans.
You can't cheer when a guy gets injured. You can't boo when a guy gets injured. What am I at the game for? Just to sit down and shut up? Come on.
When Scotty hurt his ankle, they played "Hit the Road, Jack," and I know that was because Gary also simultaneously fouled out, but that was so distasteful.
Yeah, and you look at the game as a whole. I mean, we're gonna probably get into players soon, and we'll likely start with the best player, the man who played 44 minutes, which was by far the most on the Raptors. But before we do, guys, I want to focus on what Philadelphia struggled with in this game specifically, and that was getting the ball to the basket. I know this sounds weird, guys, but Fred leaving the game with that hip strain, it just seemed like since that moment occurred for the Raptors, which seemed like I was like, oh goodness, if Fred's out, then where's our shot creation going to really come from? Are we going to be able to stretch the floor properly, right? Because Kyle, you mentioned that all season long, Fred is one of the guys who's on the team where he can stretch the floor probably better than any other Raptor on his night, right? So when he left, I was kind of worried. But guess what, guys? The all 6'9" lineup worked today. They had Thad Young out there, Pascal, Chris Boucher, Precious Achiuwa. Who's the last guy I'm missing, guys?
I know. You want to ask Adon? Adon, I'm sure knows.
Oh, OG Anunoby? Did I say that?
What are we talking about?
Thad, OG, Pascal, Precious, and Chris Boucher. Yes. So that lineup to me won the Raptors the game, and they stuck with it all the way to the end. Thaddeus Young.
Goodness gracious. They had Gary instead of
well,
Gary played quite a bit
They
too.
checked Gary in after the Sixers went zone. They had one possession with Chris Boucher in with that lineup, and the Sixers went zone. They did one possession with that, and the Raptors were like, "We can't handle this. We're not going to do this all over again. Let's get Gary in the game. We need some shooting," which I thought was the right move. Like because the lineup what you just mentioned was rolling. They were doing very well. I thought it was if we're gonna criticize Nurse a lot, which we have during the course of the series, we got to give him his praise when he deserves it. And I thought it was a good move to go to Gary, break up the flow of that lineup and go to Gary.
The length bothered Tyrese Maxey quite a bit as well. We haven't talked about Tyrese Maxey, who has clearly been one of the best players in this entire playoff series for both teams. The length really bothered him. Yeah, in the playoffs period. So that lineup was something that I loved. Chris Boucher's rim protection today was incredible. Thad Young's playmaking was incredible. You can see the tweet beside us right now. And for our listeners, our podcast listeners, William Liu tweeted, rotation for the second half was Pascal, OG, Gary, Precious, Scotty, with Thad and Boucher off the bench. Keep it like that. The length really bothered the Sixers. Guys, do you think, before we look forward, obviously, to Game 5 in Philadelphia, do you think that maybe losing Fred isn't going to be as big as a blow that maybe we would have imagined?
Yeah, that's topic number one, and you brought it up, is we got better when Freddie left. And, I defended Freddie last game because I think there's a lot he does that helps his team, but it's become very evident that he can't really keep anybody in front of him. Like even Harden got by him a couple of times. He's not getting lift on his shot. And I thought Freddie had a decent first half. Like he went back to that distributional Freddie, which I really like. I think when he plays pure point guard, he's very effective because he can do the same kind of things that Lowry does, where even though he lacks explosiveness, he can find space and then find the right guy. That being said, defensively, like Freddie removed from this lineup creates 5 guys who are like frenetic, long, athletic, aren't intimidated by facing Embiid. Even Gary's like, okay, like bring me Embiid, I don't care, and can kind of like rough him up a little bit. And yeah, it gave Harden doesn't like that length. Neither does Maxey, and frankly, neither does Embiid when there's two sets of arms kind of like getting in his face. So I think I think it benefited them greatly.
I was going to say, I don't even know if it's like an on-ball defense thing that Fred was getting blown by. I think it's, if anything, they're just able to help and rotate so much more effectively when you have like 5 guys who are 6'9" instead of 4 guys who are 6'9" plus a dude who's 5 foot something. Like the help at the rim was awesome. They rotated so well. This is tough because I mean we all love Freddie, but I think if Will Lou's willing to go there, who has interviewed Fred before, basically saying like, this is the rotation that we won the game with. No Fred, let's stick with that. If he's willing to go there, I think we ought to be willing to go there too, which is like, that's the truth. This team has played better without Fred on the floor. This is the best basketball they played all series was without Fred.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I think his on-ball defense is not very good right now either.
No, I don't think it's very good at all either. My thing is that it's more about the general team defense is so much better without Fred, which is actually even more of a knock against him because he should be in theory a good team defender.
Yeah, and I think that's what it comes down to. When Kyle, you hit it right on the head with the closeouts because Fred closing out. I'm sorry, and I don't want to pick on Fred because he is dealing with his own injury. You guys saw him rip the jersey as he was exiting the floor. He is frustrated. His wife and his brother were there watching courtside as well. They're frustrated. So obviously we're sad for Freddie, but the fact of the matter is the Raptors looked a lot more in sync when Freddie was gone defensively. And when you have, like Kyle said, 5'11", 6-foot guy closing out on you compared to Chris Boucher, right, with that wingspan, or Precious Achiuwa with that height and wingspan, it's different. It's a lot more different. I think we have to mention this because the Raptors' entire defensive system, the foundation of it against Philadelphia has been, if you're going to double, the rotations have to be very crisp. And that last guy who, Philadelphia kept doing that thing where they kicked it out, Joel Embiid. And sometimes Joel Embiid was getting frustrated. Instead of kicking it to the man right beside him and then swing, it was just going cross court. And sometimes that would, end up in an out of bounds turnover pass. But most of the time when it was a few swings into those possessions, it got to that last guy and it's Chris Boucher closing out, or it's Precious, or it's Thad Young. And a lot of times those are misses. And also I really want to say, because of course I got to get a little bit of slander in there. Thank you to Danny Green, one of the most loyal Toronto Raptors, I think, in recent memory. Danny Green, a true Toronto soldier, a mercenary for the cause. We appreciate you, Danny Green, more than anything. Nick Nurse has cojones, guys, because he left Danny Green wide open in the corner. How many times, guys? 10, 15 times in this game? And Danny got to the point where I remember he missed a corner 3. He got down the floor and he started, settling at the elbow instead. I think that's just a mental thing. When you can force a guy to just move from a spot where he's missed over and over and over again. Danny didn't even really want to shoot it at the end of the game there. And then you see the highlight. I think probably the highlight of the night, that in and out crossover from Precious to Danny was just did you guys, by the way, I don't want to pick on Danny here, but did you guys see Danny running up and down the court? I mean, that guy has to have fibromyalgia, arthritis, something's going on with Danny. I don't know.
Two things. I think he hurt his back. It looked like he had like a brace on or something. So there might have been that. But I did want to bring that up. Like, it is understated how weirdly and slowly that dude moves for being an elite athlete. Like, his wrists are like this, and his feet like go like this, but he's running, and he kind of like he's like on an elliptical going down the floor.
Yeah.
And it's like, how does this dude even like move in any sort of athletic way? It's very funny to watch.
Yeah, he's also like the least convincing finisher around the rim I've ever seen. Anytime he goes like, he's pulling up for a shot, like or a layup around the rim. It's like I'm so unworried. I'm so unbothered by a Danny Green like layup attempt.
I don't know. I
still love the guy though. He got us a ring and then he got us tattooed on him and then left. Got another ring.
I kind of feel
that was
that
a
way
legendary
about Gary though. Like when Gary gets to that rim, dude, it's like I'm legitimately surprised if it goes in.
Yeah, absolutely. So we should get to Pascal? Like we should probably get to Pascal. I mean, the first good Pascal game of the series. This is probably needed big time for his reputation. I think around the league, especially amongst Raptor fans, this was a necessary game. We'll see what happens back in Philadelphia, but in general tonight, tremendous. Got to the line. It felt like he was getting downhill more, whether that be, I think a lot of his work was done with Paul Reed on the floor, which makes a lot of sense. We were talking, I think either last time or the time before, you got to make sure that Pascal's out there when Embiid isn't, because his whole game is predicated, on getting downhill, and he couldn't do so against Embiid. But then, he apparently could do it against Embiid tonight. So who knows? Like he was doing it against anyone. What did you guys think?
Adon, do you want to give your thoughts? Because I have quite a lot to say about Pascal.
You do it, man.
Pascal, this is a game, going into this game, the talking point, that surrounded Raptors fans, media, was Pascal had to come back to his senses. He had to play at an all NBA level. I spoke to Will Liu yesterday on his show, and I was watching it actually before I made an appearance, and he was talking nonstop about Pascal, being the key to this game. If we can get an all NBA level Pascal, the Pascal that we got in March rather than the Pascal we've been getting in April, I think, this game's going to look totally different. And 34 points, guys, 15 free throws attempted, and he made 13 of them. The only two he missed, if you guys remember, was the 3-point foul. I forgot who fouled him on the perimeter. He missed 2 out of the 3. He had every single free throw other than those two. So, I mean, the tough shot making, the fearlessness, the creative ability to get into the paint, his footwork. Pascal's footwork is incredible in that mid-range area. You could see here, he's just Paul Reed. I mean, that's Paul Reed's daddy tonight. So Adon, I don't know if you saw something different, but I saw Pascal that might have wrapped up that all NBA third team performance, even though I know that's a regular season award. But I think most NBA fans were watching this game and they saw the Pascal that we've been witnessing for the last 2-3 months now.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle and I talked about this last game. Is like Toronto just weirdly goes away from what works sometimes, and I think part of that last game or last couple of games is maybe exhaustion a little bit. Like Pascal looked a lot more springier today for whatever reason, and that might have been with Scotty and Thad kind of carrying the like ball handling load a little bit. I think part of it is Freddie going away. It's like Freddie is a leader on this team, but Pascal is the skilled leader on this team, and I think like having him as the de facto number one at all times, like helped him kind of like just go and get his. Obviously, he said at the beginning or after the last game that like he needs to be more aggressive and he needs to go get his. And so he definitely came into this game with that decided mindset. But I just really think that Toronto did a much better job of hunting. It's like, give me George Yang, give me Tobias Harris. Doesn't matter. Let me go to work. And yeah, you saw and he was getting to the rim more, I think, like 15 free throw attempts is
that's the big thing.
I'd be curious. That might be even his season high.
Niang took like the most frustrated sixth foul I think I've ever seen in NBA. Like I've ever seen in the NBA. He just like basically like threw his hands up, like pushed a dude, walked off the court. Like it's like he was in hell.
The exact same thing. I said it looks like a drunkard like trying to hug a stranger. He's just like
I will give Yang credit for one thing, guys. He can shoot. That guy,
knockdown.
He can shoot the hell out of the basketball. Like I tweeted, I feel like he hasn't missed all series long, and that's why Doc Rivers keeps him in the game. They struggle sometimes with those Philadelphia lineups to stretch the floor against the Raptors, And that's why you see guys like, Georges Niang, shout out Iowa State. I had a random
Iowa State
reply to me who like, I forgot who it was. They tweeted a Iowa State Cyclones gif, and I was like, oh, he's from Iowa State. That's nice. But yeah, Niang and Danny Green are in the game for a reason. But guess what? When they're in the game, it may be a positive for Philadelphia offensively, but defensively, I mean, the Raptors were hunting Niang and Danny Green for that matter. And I feel like they maybe should have done it even more than they were.
Totally.
But we have a tweet here from Scott. Let me just read this really quickly. Oh, okay. Tweet's gone. Okay, no, it's back. Doc Rivers says, with all the injuries, the series could come down to him going one-on-one with Nick Nurse. He says he likes his chances in that matchup. Bulletin board material. Nice.
Nurse is definitely gets too lazy to try to drive the ball to the hoop after 6 possessions and starts chucking threes. That would be my interpretation of Nick Nurse playing one-on-one.
So that was a season high for Pascal and free throw attempts, and I think you're right, Sahal. They just need to. We said about the pick and roll. We said it again here. They've got to spam those plays. When Gary or Freddie walk up and jack a 3 seconds into the shot clock. I understand that's part of probably a larger strategy that the Raptors have devised, namely because of offensive rebounding. That doesn't work anymore. I like slowing down the possession game. I like methodically. We got to beat up the 76ers on the defensive end. Embiid looked a little bit more tired. Part of that was frustration, but he just looked tired. Harden's got to get hit. Maxi's got to get hit. And let's just throw Thad screens. Let's throw Precious screens. Let's just keep spamming that with with Pascal as the ball handler. And even if we don't get a score out of it, I think that wear and tear is really going to benefit us further down the line in the game.
My frustration oftentimes is that I feel like they try to get into early offense way too often, and then nothing comes of it. And all of a sudden, you're looking up at the shot clock. There's only 12 seconds left, and you can't hunt. You can't be deliberate and try to find a matchup. So instead of trying to get into the early offense, take 12 seconds of the shot clock on a suboptimal possession because you were in a transition opportunity or semi-transition opportunity. They need someone out there who's going to settle things down and get them into sets. Unfortunately, Fred just clearly isn't that guy. Hasn't really ever been that guy because he's just not the true point guard type. That's not to say he's a bad player. He's just not the true point guard type. I mean, there are a few guys out there who are. But I think Pascal has the potential to do that. I think actually Scotty has the potential to do that a lot. He was doing a lot of directing traffic tonight when he was playing earlier, which I love. He seems like one of the few players in this team who has a true playmaking instinct. Him, Banton to a certain extent, Flynn to a certain extent, Thad Young. I'll throw him in there just because he had a great night tonight, and I don't want to fight about it. But yeah, sometimes they just need a guy out there who's going to be deliberate enough to ensure that they get into sets.
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to as well. Some other Raptors that played really well. We're almost 25 minutes in, and we've spoke about Pascal. We spoke about the overall game, but I do think there are some other Raptors who played well as well. Gary Trent Jr. had some timely shots. We talked about the bench, each and every one of them. Yeah, we talked about the bench, each and every one of them. Thad Young, Chris Boucher, and Precious Achiuwa played key roles in this game. OG Anunoby didn't shoot all that well, guys, but I think his defensive effort was there definitely near the end. Things started getting a little chippy. I've already seen people in our live comment section mention how OG shouldn't have got that technical foul, but I feel like it's one of those things, Kyle. And when we watch football games, it's one of those things where the first guy to push the guy's helmet, he never gets called for that, for that unsportsmanlike. It's the second guy who always retaliates. Same thing in basketball. If you are a long-term Raptors fan, you guys remember the Mo Pete Vince Carter incident where Mo Pete kind of retaliated and the referee, playfully, exactly, and they're friends. So the referee teched up Mo Pete instead of Vince Carter. Even Vince Carter was like, "What the hell are you doing?" We were just joking around, but I mean, it happens.
Yeah. Also, we got to be realistic. Whether it's soccer, European football, American football, basketball. When a guy's on that second technical foul or whatever the equivalent is card, it's you get some leeway. You got some room because the referee knows that he's going to have to toss you if he calls that second tech. I think if Embiid hadn't had a first tech, those two are getting double teed up. And you split it up, and that's the 100%. Way the ref deals with it. But you couldn't kick Embiid out the star player out with 10 minutes or whatever, 2 minutes left in a 10-point game.
should have been a non-call. OG was stupid for doing that last push. Like,
He already shoved his arm away. You don't have to do the rest, you know.
But you do. Refs always factor in historical stuff, and like Embiid kept fishing for this shit all game long, right? Like that's what's kind of that's why OG should know better, but that's why the refs should know better too. Man, we don't need to talk about this right now, but like I don't care whether the refs were in our favor or not, although they let a lot more go. But just generally, NBA playoffs, like the NBA needs to sit down with a bunch of like ethicists and like other philosophers and think about the foul calling and referee purpose philosophically. Like it's almost like the referee lobby has Adam Silver's ear and they're like, yo, you need us. You can't let us go. Like your economy's going to fall to shit because they influence these games to such a dramatic degree that it's like incredibly frustrating. And players know that if they bitch about it more than the other guy bitching about it, they're just going to inevitably get more calls because that's how our subconscious psyche works. And like the NBA really needs to audit refereeing as a whole and figure this shit out.
Well, we're talking about the league who had active referees like gambling on games, some of which who were like, if you couldn't get directly proven for it, dudes who are still in the league today, who weren't directly correlated to the Donnie thing, still reffing, still placing calls. So whatever, we don't have to get all into that, but like this is like a toxic part of the NBA that is really not talked about, and it's not unprecedented. There's match fixing scandals in soccer all the time in big leagues in Italy, and like so it wouldn't shock me if there's some real shady stuff going on in basketball. But that's a big digression. We should talk about the game.
Going back to the players, guys, I really want to focus on Thad Young. Okay, 13 points. I mean, 5 rebounds, I believe, 5 assists. 3 steals, a block. He was a plus 14, shot 6 for 9, super efficient. Like if you're talking about a guy, a rotation guy that you're relying on, and he puts up 13, 5, 5, 3, 1 on efficient shooting, and he's playing late in the game, and he's making key passes late in the game. Like if you that 3 that he made on the elbow, this drive to the rim that our live watchers are seeing, Thad Young was crucial to what the Raptors were doing. And I was a little bit worried, guys, because when Fred left the game, Fred's not an incredible playmaker, but he's as good as it gets for the Raptors, him and Pascal. So when he left, I was kind of wondering, will this kind of become an ISO game where Pascal and OG are just throwing everything up and the ball's not really moving? That wasn't the case. I mean, they were using Thaddeus Young as one of the primary initiators when he was in. That one bounce pass he had, goodness gracious, I believe it was to Chris Boucher for the finish. Yeah. I was like, wow. What did you guys think about that and what you saw from that game?
This was like I wasn't surprised by Thad's ability to do it. I was surprised that suddenly it appeared. That stat line and how he did it is quintessential Thaddeus Young to the utmost degree. Like it's not exactly pretty, but it's also like damn, and it's everywhere. He's getting hands on the basketball. He's like there was a time in the second quarter where he was responsible for like 5 buckets in a row or something. He has great court vision, and when his little weird floaters and odd angle layups and stuff are going in, he's like a legitimate threat. And I've said at the beginning of this series, like, try Birch out on Embiid. He's done a pretty good job. But Thad's your answer to guard Embiid. Embiid is the traditional 5 because he's so strong and laterally quick on the switches. And at the same time, he can hurt Philly on the offensive end, as you see here, hitting a baseline 3-point shot on a driving kick.
Yeah, I think an underrated part about basketball in general is like you need to be rewarded for your actions. So like when you're playing with a guy who's going to reward you as a cutter, you're going to cut more often. You're going to cut with intensity. You're going to cut with purpose. If you play with a guy who's like going to reward you in transition, like by passing you the ball, you're gonna fill the lanes with more intensity, etc. Like that just brings something. He's just like he's willing to pass the ball. He's willing to move the ball. He's willing to screen. He's willing to crash the offensive glass if that's what he's asked. And I was critical of Thad Young move, and I think I'm almost at the point where like I have to just throw my hands up and admit like maybe winning a playoff game is worth like the 10 picks, whatever.
We'll see.
Guys, Joel Embiid 7 for 16, James Harden 5 for 17, Tyrese Maxey 4 for 12. Danny Green obviously is 2 for 10, but those 3 players, those 3 key guys for Philly. Philly has shown, because guys, this wasn't a blowout. Let's be honest. It was a very good win for Toronto. It was convincing near the end. They got to bring some of their bench in. Delano Banton with a nice little and-one, his first ever playoff basket. But this wasn't necessarily a dominant game from Toronto. I mean, if there was a dominant game that they were controlling in terms of the pace of the game, it was probably the last game. It wasn't this one. But nonetheless, great game. However, Philadelphia has proved that with their top 3 guys shooting poorly or shooting under 50%, they can still keep the game close. Tobias Harris has been the unsung hero for Philadelphia in this series. A lot of the focus obviously has been on Maxey and Embiid, but Tobias Harris defensively, I mean, he's been great. Not maybe so great today because he really took the Pascal one-on-ones to heart, and Pascal made him pay for it. But he's been really good. I mean, I have to give some Philadelphia 76ers players their credit. But guys, in this game, and looking on to the next one, shooting under 50% for those 3 stars doesn't guarantee the Raptors a win. Adon, what do you think is probably the biggest key looking into the next game for the Raptors? Because it's I don't think it's as easy as just saying you got to stop the main 3 guys, because these guys have 4 guys that could probably put up 20 to 30 on any given night. So what do you think is the key? Do you think, I mean, if Fred's out, we're assuming for Monday night's game 5 in Philadelphia, if he's out, you would assume that they're going to go with that all 6-9 lineup quite often. And do you think maybe they're going to have the same success? What do you think they should maybe change, adjust, do the same? What do you think?
Well, I think, first of all, shout out to Tobias Harris. I said prior to the series, like if he suddenly finds his confidence, we're in big trouble. And I think like he was really the only guy that tonight that really kind of played with like a sense of like focus, I suppose. He was 15 and 11, like good game by him. Samson Folk did a video on this yesterday, so go check it out on Twitter. But Kyle and I talked about this. Like the Raptors made a decision to not help early on the 76er main guys, Embiid and Harden. And you saw 2 plays with the difference. Like Embiid had the ball kind of deep on the side of the 3-point line, and we doubled. But then we had another time where he was closer central to the court, and we doubled. He turned the ball over. And then on the second time, we doubled, and he easily kicked the ball out. So, and they hit a shot. So we're being more selective on when to double and who. I think letting Harden try and cook by himself is fine, especially now with probably Freddie not playing. Like Harden's not going to get by our guys that often. And because he lacks explosiveness in the lane, like a late help is much better than an early one, because an early one enables him to find the open guy, have more court vision. When it's late and in the key, he's already buried and he's gonna struggle. And same thing with Embiid. Like I think when the helps come early, he's able to face up and find that corner pass. Whereas when he's deeper, it's a lot more difficult to get those passes out. And so I think that's an adjustment we'll stay with. Like focus more on Maxey as a scorer and let Harden and Embiid make those decisions later in the shot clock or later in the possession when they're already kind of have their head down and they're flummoxed more.
Yeah, I think first of all, I agree with everything you said. I think it's also worth noting that, like, okay, although Maxey, Harden, and Embiid didn't have their best games, the Sixers still shot 42% from 3. It's not like they had a terrible shooting night. They shot like 20 points higher than the Raptors did from 3, or this afternoon, I should say, instead of tonight. Like this isn't a fluky win by any means, and it actually means that a lot of what we're coming out of this win with, like, content wise, is like stuff that can actually be translated into a win in Philadelphia. And part of that again is that they seem to have, at least tonight, I don't know if it's figured out, or I don't know if it's maybe they just have the right personnel to play the defense that they want to against Embiid with the length and no Freddie, but it was working. It was working really well. And we'll have to see what happens in Philadelphia. Maybe the whistle will be different, because the whistle could just completely alters games, as we were talking about earlier. It just completely alters games. But as of right now, I actually think that the Raptors have a decent chance in Philadelphia. And if you think they have a decent chance as well, we've got a link. Do I have a link for you? If I could just find it here in the banners. If you guys want to check out the description, we are brought to you by ScoreBet. It's everywhere. It's you probably saw some ads tonight, again this afternoon.
Definitely.
Or if in Aiden's case this morning, did the game begin? I guess the game begun for you in the morning.
Baby.
Some morning basketball if you're on the West Coast. Either way, you guys check out the link in the description. Tell them we sent you. I'm not going to give you any betting advice because I've actually I think I'm like 0 for 4 lifetime. So maybe I'll give you guys some advice and you could bet the exact opposite. Is that how we should do this?
That's basically
no, I'm going to just hold off. I'm just going to hold off. But check out the link in the description. Aiden will let you know like what he likes probably in a preview, probably in a game preview towards the bottom. Am I right or am I wrong?
I do have my betting's been pretty hot this series. Although betting all of the Raptor combinations to win this series isn't looking that great. Talking about commercials quickly, I friggin' hate most of the commercials that are on TV on the Canadian feed. But the Wealthsimple crypto commercial is absolutely genius.
It's smart.
It is funny. It is thoughtful. It is like perfectly analogous to, how people are naysayers to innovative technology. And I just bravo to them for that commercial. It's very seldom you get good quality like that.
Aiden being a crypto bro is like a weird turn. I did not expect that from you. This is like a heel turn almost from you.
I'm not a big crypto. I don't have any money invested.
I'm anti-crypto with the exception of RAPS. Specifically RAPS.
I bought some Top Shot shit. That was a waste of time.
Yeah, that was a waste of time for me. Although again, if Reggie Jackson ever wins an MVP or something, I think I think I could retire early.
Taxman.
You want to go to Taxman?
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm happy to do Taxman.
Let's do it. And we know who it is. This is probably one of the easier taxmans, I think, of the entire season.
Oh, really? As the underdog tax guy, I'll let you go and I'll throw in mine.
Okay. I was going to say it's Pascal Siakam, just simply because we needed January, February, and March Pascal rather than the April Pascal. And I think it's just everything we saw. We mentioned him earlier in the show, but everything we've seen from him in terms of a playmaking perspective, a scoring perspective, his ability to get other guys involved, draw the double, kick, trust his guys. He has been incredible. Like I said, I mentioned his footwork because his footwork is something that I think is not even underrated at this point. I think it's one of the best in the league. People joke and they make these little fun jokes or whatever it is about his spins and all this stuff. And was it Miles Bridges who had a rap and he mentioned something about it, Pascal Siakam's spin. I don't know what it was, but I think some of you guys know what I'm talking about. I think people do not give him credit for his footwork. He's always going up against bigger guys, stronger guys, and he can show strength. He's a finesse guy. He can do everything. Pascal, on his day, truthfully does not look like he has very many flaws defensively or offensively. So I'm going to go with Pascal as the tax man. But
that's the right choice. If we're choosing MVP of the game, then we're choosing Pascal Siakam. But for me, it's Daddy. I mean, he gave us that spark off the bench that we all needed, or that this team desperately needed, particularly with Scotty tweaking his ankle again. He kept things rolling for us. He greased the wheels on our offense. He played excellent defense. He closed the game out. It was that veteran leadership and grit and strength that this team desperately needed, that Goran Dragic long ago may have provided us. And I'm happy to say that Thad Young coming to the Toronto Raptors was a blessing, and I always spoke highly of it. And I think tonight demonstrated his value, even though he's demonstrated it multiple times since coming to Toronto. This was the Thad game that kept us alive. So my tax man would be Thaddeus Young.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I'm with you. You got to reward these types of performances. And while we're talking about rap lyrics, like there surely is a Thad Young lyric out there. All the left-handed guys have lyrics. Or the Moji, there's like the Moji Ginobili lyric. I'm sure Harden has like some lyrics out there. Like there's got to be like a Thad Young lyric out there somewhere.
So that was we're gonna have co-tax men tonight, tax men of the night, just because we can do that. We make our own rules. It's like the NBA and their lack of criteria for all of the awards for media to follow. We can just create whatever criteria we want by not having any at all. Congratulations to Pascal and Thaddeus Young for the Can-Am Tax Men of the Night. That's brought to you by canamtax.com. Our boy VJ Verma will help you out with all your personal and business tax needs. Go check out their site. Tell them Raptors Republic sent you. Tell them Adon still hasn't done his taxes and might need some help in a week. Yeah, that's Can-Am Tax.
www.canamtax.com 416-243-2912. VJ Verma and Can-Am Tax family. Yes.
Okay, there's sunshine outside here in Victoria. So I suggest we get to questions and then we all go enjoy our Saturday evenings. How about that?
All right. We got some live questions that we're going to pull up. We know our producer, Don, is skimming through quite quickly. I think Kyle is as well because this is like his favorite time usually of our show.
It gives him a chance to bark back at the audience.
I was texting jokes in the private chat. I'm sorry. Go ahead and look through the comments.
Let's get Phil Evans to ask us a legitimate question.
Yeah, Phil Evans. There's sort of like I did want to mention this. Yeah, you know, like when Bambi, I don't actually even think I've ever really seen it. I wasn't but I know that the analogy, which is like Bambi on ice or whatever, like when he's flying around everywhere. Bambi like couldn't stand the night. I don't know. He slipped like 4 or 5 times. I don't know maybe they're like greasing up his shoes or something, but like he was like flying all over the place. Did you guys notice that?
Yeah, he collapsed twice like immediately.
I was like, what's going on? I don't know if the floor was slippery. I don't know what was happening with Delano. But like I said, he got an and one, which was nice. So
Don, choose a question for us, my friend. Phoenix 74757 asks, you guys have any predictions for Game 5 back in Billy? Hard hitter first.
I mean, people would get angry with us, I think, if we said we didn't predict a win, just coming off the current momentum.
Why are we going to win?
Because I think you're coming off of 2 very good games that the Raptors played. One of them being a loss in Game 3, but Game 4, it seems like as this series is going along, the Raptors are almost figuring out what Philadelphia's trying to do to win each possession, both offensively and defensively. So, and that's a key, I think, with Nick Nurse rather than having Doc Rivers as your coach. I think Nick Nurse almost gets better as the series goes along. If you guys remember in 2019 when the Raptors were down 2-0 to the Bucks, the adjustments that Nick Nurse made, the adjustments that the players made and executed on the court. Because I always want to mention that. You know, sometimes we give Nick Nurse a little bit too much credit, but the players have to execute as well. You know, Nick Nurse gets better as the series goes along. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be a rabid environment. People know Philadelphia is a city, whether it's the 76ers, it's the Eagles, it doesn't matter what sports team it is, they have probably one of the most passionate fan bases in sports. So it's going to be a lot of yelling. It's going to be a lot of outside noise for the Raptors to deal with. But I am going to go with, the Raptors winning. And you guys see it. I mean, I can highlight my name, but I can't, obviously, when we have the comment highlighted. But you guys saw my name is Doc Rivers it's 3-1. So, I mean, this is Doc Rivers territory. I love it. He's down 3-1 again. And I'm going to go Raptors win and make this a 3-2 series heading back to Toronto.
Kyle, let me specify the prediction. Like, what do you think is going to, like, is it going to be what we saw tonight, or do you think there's something else that's going to spark the win? You're
just assuming that I would predict a win. I guess I will. For the sake of conversation, I guess I will. I think, to me, we're kind of waiting on like a Gary Trent Jr. just like take over the game, crazy like he had in Phoenix or something. And to me, I think it's a good candidate. Game 5, Fred's kind of stepping aside. Gary, I guess my wild prediction is that Gary starts cooking early and they win by like 10 points. And Scotty, it will be one game healthier, presumably.
Well, I don't know. That
depending
ankle
on
might
how the
settle
ankle
back.
is looking. But I'm going to
Yeah.
assume that Scotty will be one game healthier.
Why do you think they kept playing Scotty despite him obviously being in pain and less mobile than he was?
Because the impact he has, especially on the glass, is crazy. It's weird. Like guys, it's such a unique skill to possess. Like some guys affect the game by scoring, and some guys affect the game defensively, and some guys are great playmakers. But like it's actually a rare group of guys who affect the game like in a rebounding capacity. And I think Scotty is potentially one of those dudes who just like, even if he's not necessarily getting the rebound, he just creates like so much havoc on the glass, like with tipping the ball, boxing guys out, just like generally climbing dudes' backs and like getting elbows into people's ribs, all that kind of stuff. That he is like a hugely positive force for the Raptors' offensive rebounding, which they need, and they did tonight. And they also turned the Sixers over tonight. So this is what needed to happen, and they actually got it done.
Like they always say the next game in the playoff series is the most important. And if you can win in Game 5 in Philadelphia, I mean, that's 3 games in a row now where Toronto probably had the edge, right? And then you're heading back to Toronto where the Raptors obviously are a lot more comfortable. But, I'm not looking past Game 5. This isn't a disrespect thing for Philadelphia. I think overall, macro perspective, they've been the better team versus Toronto in this series. But Toronto's starting to inch closer and closer and closer. So we'll see how it goes. I think, like Kyle said, you're probably going to need a very big game from either Gary or OG, or maybe even both in this game. I don't think it's fair to expect Pascal to just put up 35 every single game. I expect Pascal to have a good game, but we'll see. I just don't think it's fair to Pascal to just be like, all right, Fred's out, so it's all on you, my man. We're going to need more. And the bench is also those guys that we mentioned before, Precious, Chris Boucher, Thad Young. They're going to have to play some crucial minutes in this one, especially if Fred's out. So we'll see. I'm predicting a win. Kyle's predicting a win. Adon?
W, of course. But I think, and this is a good way to transition to this question by Menezes Marcelo, which is
my boy, Marcelo.
What would be the main offensive strategy for Game 5? And I think we can anticipate Philadelphia adjusting to Pascal kind of cooking, and there being a heavier presence in the lane and potentially like some doubles coming earlier. So to your point, Sahal, and Kyle, we're going to need to have an OG game or a Gary game, or somebody's going to have to step up or Precious for that matter.
I was going to say the Precious game. We didn't even talk about him yet.
Exploit those. It's very easy to. Gary had one which was incredible where he screened Pascal and rolled, and the Pascal dumped it to him, and there wasn't a single moment of hesitation. He immediately ripped and got into the lane, and I think that's the kind of stuff that Toronto is going to need to do. It's got to be crisp ball movement and sharp, fast attacks, because Philadelphia is like a slower team laterally. They're a good team defense, like centered around Embiid, but I think we can exploit that if they start focusing more on Pascal than they otherwise have been. And so one of those guys is going to have to be. They all have to continue to be aggressive, but somebody's going to have to start scoring at a higher clip. Do you guys have any thoughts on offensive strategies?
To me, I think the biggest key is just like being deliberate and hunting switches and mismatches and stuff. Like that's your best bet. Again, like we talked about the impact of Fred not being on the floor defensively, is you get to play these long guys. I think, unfortunately, and I feel almost guilty saying this, I think another one of those is that like you don't have to deal with some of the ego problems that Fred might provide sometimes. Like it does seem that at times, like if Fred takes possessions that he probably shouldn't be taking over dudes who have mismatches, and maybe they work something out this without Fred there, or with Fred in a reduced capacity, to actually get guys touches in mismatches. I think that's really just, if you watch all the playoffs, if you watch any playoff basketball over the last 3 years, is really going, I think it really started probably those LeBron teams. I mean, it's existed in basketball forever, but those like LeBron Cleveland teams were the first that I remember like really aggressively hunting mismatches as like a primary offensive strategy. This is how playoff basketball works. It's just like you are hunting people. If you watch the Utah series, Donovan Mitchell is being hunted. If Jokic is being put into really difficult situations. Like if you watch any of these playoff basketball series, this is how playoff basketball works, and good offenses work this way. I just want the Raptors to be one of them. I think they have the potential to be.
We have a question from J. Kennedy Carter, and this is something we didn't mention on the show yet, but it was probably the biggest Raptors news of the day, and that is Scotty Barnes being named officially by the NBA Rookie of the Year. And goodness gracious, guys,
this hug is amazing.
Yeah, exactly. And was it a close race, guys? I don't know if you guys saw the voting. Maybe Don can bring that up eventually for us. But the voting was super close. Evan Mobley was in second place, as most people expected. Cade Cunningham in third place. And there was some pushback from NBA fans. I mean, Raptors fans, I don't want to say I don't understand the pushback because it kind of minimizes Evan Mobley a little bit. But Evan Mobley had a Rookie of the Year level season. The voting results, as you guys can see, are for our audio listeners. Scotty Barnes led the way with 48 first-place votes. Evan Mobley was underneath him with 43 first-place votes, and Cade Cunningham had 9. Underneath them, Jalen Green, Franz Wagner, and for some odd reason, Herbert Jones.
Herb Jones, baby.
Yeah, for the New Orleans Pelicans. Were you guys shocked by how close the voting was, and what did you guys think overall of Scotty doing this? There's a very cool video on Open Gym, a little Open Gym clip they posted as well of Nick Nurse. Yeah, man, he was crying, and it was very emotional. I'm sure it was emotional for some Raptors fans as well because Scotty Barnes has put in his all this season. 35 minutes a game. He was, I think, the third, I think, something like that. The third to sixth player ever to ever average over 15, 7 rebounds, and 3.5 assists. I think he's the third, if I'm not mistaken. I might have that wrong, but fantastic season from Scotty Barnes, and it is rewarded with the Rookie of the Year. Look what happens, guys, when Masai Ujiri gets a top 5 pick. Rookie of the Year. Look what happens. What did you guys think about overall this Scotty announcement?
I think it's well deserved. I think both of them should have won. It should have been co-Rookie of the Year. Like Mobley got kind of screwed over by his being injured and that being at like the latter part of the season as Scotty was emerging. I think Scotty had a better overall year. Like defensively, he's not as elite as Evan Mobley is, but he's a good defender and he does much more offensively on his own accord than Mobley does. And I think you have to factor in him playing substantial minutes on a winning team as part of that. And that's why Cade kind of faded, and Cade had a tough start to the beginning of the year. But I mean, I think it's awesome. It's an awesome award, and he deserves it. I just think, like, I don't really give a shit about that stuff. And so I think they both should have got it because they both played outstanding in a rookie class that is historically great. Like, Herb Jones is going to be an incredible player. And like Trey Murphy is now playing like real minutes for New Orleans, and he didn't really have a good year. Like, there are probably 25 rookies in this class that are all going to be legitimate NBA players. And you can very rarely say that in any one draft year. So it's a big honor for Scotty.
Yeah, I think the biggest differentiator between him and Mobley is that you really have to value an offensive initiator. Even if Scotty didn't necessarily get the opportunities to initiate a lot of offense this year, it's just like it's a skill level that is arguably the most desired in the NBA. And I think maybe a little bit of his like projection as in like, oh, Scotty is capable of doing this, although he didn't necessarily get the opportunity. But I think had he gotten the opportunity to really initiate the offense, he would have ran away with the award. So
I'd also like to thank Scotty for winning me odds on a 12-1 bet for him to win Rookie of the Year. Thanks, Scotty.
Nice.
Yeah, you think he'll hear this? You think he's tuned in right now?
You never know.
Winning an award of this caliber, I'll just finish it off. Winning this award of this caliber is massive in a draft like this. We didn't even talk about the last draft was great as well, 2020 NBA draft. We're seeing guys in their second years do massive, massive things. One of them in the series, Tyrese Maxey. Anthony Edwards in the Minnesota, series. He's doing great things. The last 2 NBA drafts have been absolutely incredible. LaMelo Ball for Charlotte. There's so many guys. Halliburton, now he's on the Pacers. Sadiq Bey had, I think, like a 50-point game this year. Precious Achiuwa, of course, on the Raptors. There's so many guys in the last 2 drafts who have been, turned out to be incredible basketball players. So for Scotty to win this award in an absolutely loaded draft is huge, I think. And again, speaks to the Raptors front office, how great they've been in drafting players.
Hell yeah. The Precious Achiuwa, man, I think we've been talking Precious Achiuwa a lot. But like our core is actually insane if you think about it. Like OG is 24, Precious is 23, Gary's 23, Pascal's only 27, Scotty, we have a very young core. So like when people are trashing Freddie and Pascal or this team just generally for not being like a championship material team, it's like we are so young, and like even Pascal and Freddie are really only at the beginning of their peak as like 1A, 1B players. So we have to kind of like take a step back and realize how youthful this team really is and how much room there is to grow for everybody.
Yeah. Before you guys leave us tonight, we, need you to like, comment, and subscribe if you're watching live or if you're watching this a little bit later. For our audio listeners, if you haven't subscribed to the Raptors Republic podcast channel, wherever you're watching it, subscribe there. We have tons and tons of content. The YouTube is also, going crazy with posts as well. We have tons of video content. So like, comment, subscribe, join our live chat. If you joined right at the end, join us for Monday night. We're going to be here as well. And hopefully, a little longer than Monday night as well. This was the Wrap Up Your Official Raptors Republic post-game live show where your Toronto Raptors defeated the Philadelphia 76ers, bringing the Raptors to 3-1, down 3-1 now in the playoff series, heading back to Philadelphia on Monday. This live show was produced by Don Yang. That was it for your hosts, Sahal, Sahal Abdi, I should say. Don Yang, our producer, of course, Kyle Brickman, our other host, and Adon Moss as well. I don't even know. I guess I'm maybe just too hype off of this playoff.
Hell yeah.
Take care, guys. Have a good one.